Hello from Houston, Texas. This is Art, Food, and Real Estate. Today, we're going to talk about downtown Houston. So, this is a show about zip codes. And the zip code for downtown is 77002. But before I go into the zip code part, I want to tell you a little bit about downtown Houston, right? So downtown Houston is 2 miles square, right? And we've got a bunch of buildings. I don't know how many, but it's a bunch of them. Houston covers 655 square miles, just to put it in perspective for you. 655 square miles. So fair warning, there is a yeehaw moment coming up. We could fit in Houston, New York City, Washington, D.C., Boston, San Francisco, Seattle, and Miami, all in Houston. Yeehaw! That feels good. Under Houston, downtown Houston, there is a 6 miles of tunnels, which is kind of cool. And they are connecting 95 city blocks. So originally, it just started with a couple of small tunnels that were relying a couple of big buildings. And then it took on, well, the reason why it took on is that, I don't know if you've heard, but in the summer, the temperature in here can be, 100, 110. So I'm assuming, I haven't really researched it, but this is a guess. I'm assuming that those beautiful little tunnels were designed to allow the people working downtown to basically go from one, without having to resurface, right? So it works out. And of course, it expanded like crazy. You find everything you can possibly want to find in those tunnels. Of course, there's a bunch of food options. There are dry cleaners, there are dentists, there are hair salons. I mean, it's kind of cool because if you want to stay downtown, if this is where you work, you want to stay downtown, take care of business during your lunch hour or before you start or after you're done with your workday, you can literally get all of that done in the tunnels. Going back to, because I do like to put some history into those segments, right? So let's talk about Houston and how it started, shall we? So we're going to go with 1836. We keep on going further and further in the past here. 1836, two brothers came down from the New York area, the New York City area, and the Allen brothers. So one of them was named Augustus, the other one was named John. So John and Augustus Allen came down in 1836, and they purchased 6,600 acres of land alongside Buffalo Bayou. And, we're flat here. So because we're so flat, it was so easy to go ahead and subdivide those 6,600 acres and basically sell them. And they did do that, and they made a killing at it. Now, in the meantime, while they're here, they are meeting Sam Houston. And Sam Houston and the Allen brothers became friends. And what's interesting about this, and I know I say that a lot, but what's interesting about that is that when came the time to name the city, well, they named the city after their good friend, Sam Houston. So this is how we have Houston, Texas. So we care a lot about that. We think it's kind of nice. So a little bit of information about Sam Houston, because, you have to know what's going on here. So you've heard about the Alamo, of course. The Alamo fell in March of 1836. 1836 was a big year. And then the following month, April 1836, the troops were rallied at the San Jacinto area, in the San Jacinto area. And to the cry of "Remember the Alamo," Sam Houston led his army to victory against Santa Anna. And this is how basically the Texas started. So this is the beginning of Texas. This is the beginning of Houston. So this is a huge deal for us. Sam Houston became the first president of Texas. And Houston was the capital of Texas for only 2 years, but that's okay. So in 1839, the second president of Texas Mirabeau-Lamar. That's such a nice French name right there. Mirabeau-Lamar. That sounds really good, especially the Mirabeau part. So Mr. Lamar, president of Texas, decided that no, he was not going to leave the capital of Texas in Houston, and he moved it to Austin. So that's that. So let me tell you about Huntsville. So Huntsville has a Sam Houston museum. And I'm laughing because way back when my first child was in elementary school and he had to write a paper on Sam Houston, this mother thought, well, let's see. There is a museum in Huntsville. Let's go to the museum. So I put my kid in the car and we did a little field trip on a Saturday to the museum of Sam Houston in Huntsville. We get to the museum. He frankly couldn't care less. There were a lot of really cool stuff to look at. Let me tell you what I got back, what I got out of that visit to the museum. Two things. First of all, Sam Houston was 6'6". He was tall, man. And it's funny because actually in the museum, if I'm not mistaken, they were mentioning that it probably had something to do with his success as a politician, as a soldier, and so forth and so on, because he was so tall, 6'6", at a time where the average height, I looked it up, for men was 5'8". Okay, so you can only imagine how he was towering over everybody. The other thing that I took out of my little trip to Huntsville is that he wore a vest that was made out of jaguar skin. So he was quite the colorful, character. And so we're very proud of Sam Houston. What can I tell you? So this show is about art, food, and real estate. So let me get into the art part. So the very first park that was open in Houston, Texas, was the Sam Houston Park. That's, it's kind of logical, I suppose. It was opened in 1899. So what's neat about this park is that it houses 10 historic structures that were built anywhere from 1823 to the very beginning of the 1900s. So it's a fun park to go and visit. It's called the Heritage Society. It used to be called the Harris County Heritage Society, but now it's called the Heritage Society. And the address for the Heritage Society is 1100 Bagby. So look it up because you can tour some of these homes and they are beautifully done. I used to be a docent there many, many moons ago. And the amount of training that we had to take. I mean, I remember the binder that I had at the end of it was this thick. It was crazy. And the reason for it is that we had to learn about the period. We had to learn about the architecture style. We had to learn about all the accessories that went into the homes because the homes are fully furnished with period furniture. And they are also accessorized with period accessories. It's a blast from the past. It's so much fun. And by the way, if you need a kind of a landmark to know where it is directly across the street from that one building that we have downtown that's got a Maya temple at the top. The art district is just west of downtown, and there's a bunch of different studios there. The Sawyer Yards, the Summer Street, the Winter Street, the Spring Street Studios, the Silos. The Silos. Let me tell you a little bit more about that. So at that, on that spot where the silos are, there was basically a large company called Riviana, and their business was rice. So literally, we still have the rice silos standing tall, very tall. I don't know how tall, but they're tall. And they were basically recycled, and they were made into art space. How cool is that? So you need to go check it out. The art district actually has the largest concentration of working artists in the entire state of Texas. And every second Saturday of the month, they actually open up so you can do an art walk. Okay, so you can do that, and they have breweries, they have food. It's a destination on a Saturday afternoon for sure. Okay, theater district. So we talked about the Heritage Society, the Art District, now the Theater District. So the Theater District, and I mentioned this in a previous segment, we're very proud of that. There's another yeehaw moment, but I will spare you. And we basically are second only to New York in terms of live performance seats in a downtown area. Okay, so we're very proud of that. So we have the Wortham, which is the house of the ballet and the opera. We have the Jones Hall, which is the house of the Houston Symphony. We also have the Hobby Theater, which is musical theater. So we have Broadway shows there. We have Tuts, which is our Houston theater company. And then, of course, we have the Alley Theater, and there's a bunch of other venues for that type of entertainment. But we have a very, very nicely developed theater district, so you need to look this up. Last but not least, when it comes to art in Houston, so I stumbled upon a website that's called Houston Mural Map. And I had other things to do, so I could not spend 2 hours on this as I was hoping I could do. But just looking at it for 5 or 10 minutes, and it's interactive. It's a big map of the entire Houston area and all the neighborhoods around it. And I was blown away by how many murals we have in this town. And for the most part, they are pretty amazing. Some of them are huge, like they cover the entire side of a 2 or 3 story building. So you need to look this up, Houston Mural Map, and have fun with it. You will really, really enjoy it. All right. Well, now let's go to the food part, right? Because, well, again, I'm French, so I have to talk about food. And food downtown. So there is actually a brand new venue for food downtown. It's called The Post. And basically, one of our long-time developers in this town who has done a very, very nice job of building commercial real estate, residential real estate. That person purchased the downtown post office, which was a huge building, kind of oldish, probably built in the 40s or 50s, maybe 60s. But anyway, huge building. And he transformed it into some type of a market. And so they don't have just food, but they do have the most impressive food hall I've ever seen. It's not one of those where you have one franchise after another, right? No, it's like you enter this, and architecturally, it blows you away. It's like, it's very stimulating, let's put it this way. There are a lot of neon lights going on. There are a lot of structures, aluminum structures that are hanging from the ceiling. So visually, it's extremely stimulating. You get into the food hall, and then it doesn't matter where you're going, you're going to find one really cool ethnic type food after another. So I went to the right, and that very first one was African food of some sort. And I'm sorry, I don't remember the details. All I know is this. It looked so good. I didn't feel like I needed to go see what the other options were. I just stopped there. I had the food there, and it was out of this world. It was so good. So African food. Again, you can't miss it. You enter, you go to the right, and that's going to be that first little space as you enter the hall. You've got everything. You've got even Norwegian fish in there. You've got, of course, sushi, and you've got Chinese, and you've got Korean, but you've got everything in between. It's absolutely amazing. They also have concerts. They also have workspace, I think. Anyway, it's really a very nice setup, and you need to go and check it out. The Post, just as you enter downtown off of Franklin, okay? And then there's Three Beards on Market Square. So Three Beards, it's Cajun food. They actually have several locations downtown, including one inside a church, I believe on Texas, just a few blocks away from Market Square. So jambalaya there is quite good. The shrimp etouffee, I think you really have to go to New Orleans for that. So it's going to take you a little bit more effort. But what they do have at Three Beards that's amazing is the butter cake, which is kind of a little bar, but it's like melting. It's buttery, and it's toffee, and it's caramelly, and it was really good. It's very, very good. Yeah, I'm getting hungry. Okay, and then let's talk about Hugo Ortega. So in every town, you're going to have kind of a food chef aristocracy type thing going on. Well, Hugo Ortega is definitely up there in Houston. Chef Ortega has four. Is it four? Is it five? One, two, three, four. It's five. Five restaurants. And the amazing thing is that even though they are all South American, right? They all have a totally different feel to them. They all have a totally different menu. It's absolutely amazing. My favorite is Hugo's. Caracol is in the Galleria area. It's a little bit fancier. Backstreet Cafe. Backstreet Cafe, it is a cafe. It's been around forever, and they have fantastic patio. And then their newest is Urbe. Actually, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but Urbe, and that's in Uptown Park. And that is also, it's more like a little, I don't know, like a very fancy cafeteria type thing. Okay, he's probably going to kill me for that if he ever hears me describe it that way, but it's really fancy. It's actually just next door to Étoile, which is one of my favorite French restaurants. So you've got Hugo's, Caracol, Backstreet Cafe, and Urbe. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is that Sochi is downtown. It's next to Discovery Green. And Sochi, I have not been, full disclosure, but everybody that I know who has been just couldn't stop talking about it. So Hugo Ortega, you need to look him up and you need to go visit his restaurant, each and every one of them. And of course, downtown has incredible good quality bars and restaurants. I love going to hotels and eat in an hotel. I don't know what it is about eating in an hotel, but typically the food is good. Like we had a meal not very long ago at the Lancaster, which was just next to the Alley Theater. And that was delicious. And, I've been in real estate for a very, very long time. And every single person that I've ever put in my car after, where would you like to live? How much can you spend? What do you need in your house? The next question is, do you like food? And if they say yes, and they always do, I say, well, you're in luck. Because I can tell you of many good restaurants in the neighborhood you're going to end up with that you can start patronizing. All right, real estate. So the question is, can you live downtown? And the answer is yes. As of 2017, over 10,000 people live downtown. It may not mean anything to you, but you need to understand that prior to 1997, 1998, nobody lived downtown. Nobody lived downtown. So this is what happened. In 97 and 98, a bunch of developers started purchasing commercial buildings and basically making them into residential buildings. And that literally started in the very late 90s, and it kept on going for 5 or 6 and 7 years. And it was just, it really took on fire. I mean, so many people actually moved downtown. Why would you want to move downtown? Well, the food, the entertainment, the access to just about everything that matters, the theater district, the art district, the freeways. Why wouldn't you want to move downtown? I want to move downtown. One of these days I will move downtown. So just a few of the buildings that were made into residential. There's the Commerce Tower. There's the Rice Loft. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. The Saint Germain, the Franklin Lofts, the Bayou Lofts. The Bayou Loft is my favorite, and let me tell you why. Because they managed somehow to take this 1920 building and upgrade it, redo the inside and all that. But they kept some of the original 1920 stuff. Like in the hallway, you still have this tiny little tile, on the floor. And then in the lobby, it is basically as it was in 1920. And how cool is that? So I love that. So I want to move into the Bayou Loft. So one of these days, maybe. So the Rice Loft was basically made into the what used to be the Rice Hotel. And the Rice Hotel was built by Houston developer Jesse Jones. If you know a little bit about Houston, you have to know about Jesse Jones because the two are very, very much tied together. The Rice Hotel was actually built in 1912, 1913. So they took that 100-year-old building, more or less, and they made it into apartments. So that one is apartments. It's not condos. Everything else I mentioned to you, those are condos. So obviously, those are different. So to close up this real estate this real estate segment, thank you, about downtown, just to give you a feel for what you can get there. Condos, believe it or not, they start around $250, right? Now, of course, for $250, you're probably going to get a 1-bedroom, 1-bath under 1,000 square feet, right? They can go up to the 4s, the 5s, the 6. It's difficult to find a 3-bedroom, but it can be done. So on average, you're looking at a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, which is ideal, right? It gives you more versatility. Beware, though, because as with every high-rise situation, you're looking at monthly fees. You're looking at potential assessments, right? So as you are purchasing into this condo category, no matter where it is, downtown or somewhere else, you need to be very, very aware of those side fees. Because think about it this way, these are old buildings. They are old buildings. Yes, they were redone, but you've been watching Art, Food, and Real Estate in Houston, Texas. This is Catherine Wintz. And until we meet again to check into another zip code, au revoir.